that the certainly to help with short-term problems. Now, one of the recommendations is with the disabled people make adaptations. That's then we get Wirral Street with the discretionary hospital beds. Now, obviously, someone's in a position that they've had to have their property adapted. Surely that may be a case that the local authorities actually subsidising the welfare system and how to keep those people property. And the office zone system, that's excluded in the report, is non-costs which also move because the property needs to move to will also need to be adapted. So the whole thing is going to cost a lot more money than it saves, and I just want to these highlights the discrepancy between the HPP and short-term measure.
Sure, I mean, that boils down to recommendation 1, which is where a huge amount of clarity is needed around those discretionary payments. That's all that's for. One of the key issues is as soon as you allocated that money and committed it for X length of time, new people coming into the system, once it's spent, it's spent. So that's why we've said it would be much better to really tighten up the criteria and let people know this is absolutely what you can and can't get it for. So it might be interesting to just hear from officers where that. Obviously, these are recommendations which need to go to Cabinet, but these payments are being requested now, aren't they? So I wonder where it's up to.
So just for the supplement, I'm not arguing that we should be targeting those against the disabled people. I'm just, it's a case that the HP is there for the short-term measures, for short-term
It's central government money that is being used in a way that we see fit. So it's not our resource supplementing social housing, but let officers speak to that.
Sorry, Chair. It's actually administered by our housing college, not by us as housing officers. But we'll have to ask, Chair, I know the way we're developing a policy for allocation of discretionary housing payments. But I've been behind this and I know how much we're spending on so far. You'll get information from them to see what sort of cases developing according to date.
I would guess that one of our needs is to know when the allocation is spent as well, isn't it? And if there is going to be an emergency fund held back. We need to see the criteria, don't we? So the problem is these are recommendations. The first Cabinet that can deal with these, John, is June, I think.
Is it June?
Yeah. So some of this work really needs to be happening now, but it's a recommendation. It goes to Cabinet, so our hands are a little bit tied. So we just have to be patient.
Recommendations that
anything else on it?
I just want to say what a beautiful piece of work it was, because I think it really helps to understand the impact in more detail than we thought we could. And through a lot of questions and personally, I'm really pleased with the way it was. I don't think the recommendations can be exactly like that. And I was glad that the government did a bit of read on the cost of this. Sort of. A small step, but at least it was something we didn't have before. Lay down to
Thanks, Chair. The Scrutiny Committee, who did the 2 days on all of this, I think it needs to be commended. It really was excellent scrutiny work. Once again, this is being rolled out in front of our eyes, and the officers again are trying to catch up. They're trying to do as much as they can to mitigate what's going on, but it needs massive clarification, and hopefully when this goes to Cabinet in June, a lot of what we've talked about in these recommendations will be happening and will have happened. So it's just completely unfolding. But I do think the 2 days that we did, the scrutiny was excellent. And once again, the council staff need commending for doing an excellent job in very, very difficult circumstances.
only a very simple point. It's just that seems, I mean, a lot of already, but it seems like a good idea. So it's just whether if that's accepted, whether that would be like a good idea for like charities who also work. If that is developed, it would be useful, I'm sure, to pass that, make that available more widely, because I'm sure it would be relevant by those who work online.
I'm sure, Chair, should we develop something online for our staff to use? I think it's a common sense suggestion for us to share across all organisations in Wirral that have access, or people who have access to that. Should might want to add that to the recommendation to share commercial community and faith organisations across Wirral.
Are we content to add that to the recommendations?
Yes. Yeah.
Any other comments or queries on this point? One of the things as members we are asked to do, we were very conscious that this is early days in terms of welfare reform, and in a year's time, when the impact is really hit, we might have a picture that we want to measure. What the members want to measure is the query on the fourth recommendation. I think one of the things we've already identified is the how the spend of the discretionary grants is being categorised, and if any groups are being missed out. So yeah, that's probably one, isn't it?
I think you probably need to look at different allowance in terms of, in terms of increased arrears levels, bonuses.
I think one of the other things we were quite conscious of was about the number of legal challenges and the way that was going, what was leading to evictions, so maybe something around that. That's a good idea, Jean. Okay, so anything that we want to measure in a year's time, that will be this committee that goes and does that measuring with officers. So it might be that we hold another evidence day and call back some of those people that we first interviewed, see where we're up to. Come up with things that we've measured and email them to...
I thought we'd agreed that, Chair.
To Alan, yes.
I thought we'd agreed to do that.
Yes, but it's what we want measuring, because if we kind of set the criteria, like, then it can be measured on a long-term basis rather than a panic in a year's time. Rob, sorry.
Yeah, just on there, I don't want to seem like the prophets of doom, but one of the things that we should be looking at in a year's time is how the criminal elements have moved in on this. There's already been talk now of loan sharks and drug dealers, etc., saying, you can't afford it, you've got an extra room, grow this, borrow this money, use it this way. So, that's going to have a massive social impact, and somewhere in a year's time we should be looking at that to see if it's as bad as people feel it's going to be.
On Jean's request, we did actually have the police do a very detailed report for this, so yeah, if we can ask that question. Crime levels, yeah, basically the police report is outstanding, so we just asked them to do a similar report a year on. I mean, we shouldn't, we do need to say thank you to the officers, to the members who gave the time, and all the organisations that attended, but especially thanks to Alan, who will hate me for this, but he really has worked very hard at this. It's one of several pieces of work, so thank you very much.
You honestly did that.
Are we happy to note the recommendations and make further email comments to our meeting? Thank you. Okay, moving on to Rose. Do you want to escape as well? Thank you very much, Rose. Appreciate that. We're now moving on to agenda item 6, which is the draft housing need assessment. And Ian's provided this sheet of paper, which kind of gives the headlines. So, Ian, you want to speak to that?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Not to be aware, in a previous meeting we talked about the housing needs assessment, and we talked also about the gypsy and travel accommodation assessment. these are being dealt with two entirely different pieces of work. They both need to be carried out, make a statutory duty to do them on the houses, and they're designed to inform both housing strategies and how we deal with people and the plans we put in place, as well as more planning-oriented strategies like the development plan and the core strategy. So the things we have to do. It's in terms of the timetable, there's been a delay in dealing with them in both cases because in the past few months we've been met with a statutory duty to cooperate with our neighbouring authorities on all issues around needs assessment and planning issues. So what we've had to do is share a brief where we're doing it ourselves in terms of the SHMA and in terms of the Egyptian travel assessment, working with local authorities and all across the boundary, coming up with a joint brief around that. So there's been some work had to be done to get to the point now where we've appointed the case of the Egyptian travel assessment, and we're pretty finalised to get to the point where the brief is nearly finalised for the strategic housing market assessment as well. So that's the sort of context. We have to do these things, and we're now at the point where the due to start. In terms of what I've given out to you there is just the timeline from now on, and these are sort of estimates in our mind that they're really sort of drafts of what the time scale if you like. And so they're really, you know, the chronological order as best we can do. In terms of the Egyptian travel accommodation assessment, we've now appointed between us and in the Merseyside area a consultant for Manchester based, which I'll be for. And so the process as set out just takes you then through a meeting between the partners and the consultant in this month. That's taking place, and then we get into stakeholder consultation, get a report back from the consultants and the various partners on the progress they've got to date, and then be a fieldwork traveller survey between May and the end of July, with a draft report due in the 19th of August thereabouts. We'll have the opportunity as individual local authorities to comment on the findings, get that back to the consultant, and then a final report, which includes all those issues that are at the bottom there, will be provided to us towards the end of September, with a view to them presenting their findings to us, and then can be to this Scrutiny Committee elsewhere in the authority from the 30th of September onwards. That's roughly the timetable around the Egyptian travel assessment. In terms of the strategic housing market assessment, that's the main sort of housing needs survey, that's what we now call it. And as I say, we've been delayed because of that issue around having to consult with our neighbouring partners, both in the Merseyside sub-region and in Cheshire West. And a tender brief will be in place by the first week in May, with a view to receiving tenders back on the last day in May, the 31st. Appointing the consultant by June and getting on the work from June with an interim report in November, a final report by the end of the year. So that's my managed to just note the timetable of both those cases.
Yes, just a quick question. In terms of the gypsy and traveller accommodation, agendas are we only obliged to provide accommodation, or is it all there's the house assessments, these house needs assessments come to conclusions there is no need?
It may do, but what it will do is it will provide what the requirements are for each authority in the sub-region based on previous experience and the needs assessment really about who comes to the room. On that basis, each authority will be given its sort of the verdict in terms of what it should be provided in terms of sites issues. And that's then to inform future planning policy around that.
Just very quickly, Tim.
This is actually long overdue, and it will clarify what the authority are duty bound to offer, if anything, and where we offer it. So it's long overdue, this. So I'm glad to see it's actually happening. Thanks, Chair.
When the members want to see the final report, there's a draft report and an interim report for both issues. What do members want to see? The final report, or do they want some input at the interim and the draft stage?
I think we should have some input.
Draft. Okay. We've just got to note this. I would imagine, haven't we?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll note it, but request. Sorry.
Cheers.
just regarding the traffic report should identify requirements for each LA for the next 20 years. Given the transient nature of what we're actually talking about, how do we intend to ensure that it does have provision for the next 20 years? That seems a little bit far-fetched, to say the least.
See what the consultant has to say. I mean, it is a long projection, but I think we'll probably look back at it where possibly where there's evidence of what's happened in the previous 20 years, and give some idea of flow behind it or in traffic.
As a supplementary, it seems to me though, it might be duty bound to actually have provision for the making of a traffic site. But once you've actually got one, surely that will directly affect how many people intend coming to Wirral. Because at the minute, I can't believe that we're known as an area where people would wish to travel to, because effectively, in their eyes, they may see that they're not welcome. But once you've actually made a site, surely there's a potential for them figures to completely get turned on their head.
Just follow Tony's comments. And yes to both. Firstly, I mean, this is what the government said we've got to do, and the new assessments we've got to do, what the government said we've got to do. We absolutely, in my view, cannot deny that we do have travellers coming to Wirral, because, you know, generally like my house, yeah, don't get the ball saying, and obviously, they absolutely have the same rights to housing as everybody else. That's been tried, tested, and is now beyond question. I think you're right, Tony, more might end up coming. However, there is this side of that when we speak to them, there's a sad case. If I could, I would like to maybe we go into exemption, because it is a case that I think is a personal case. But there are issues in terms of how well we deal with travellers and things.
Is this an exemption?
No, Oscar, I'll mention we go into exemption.
John?
Yes, Chair. It was just a comment on what Tony's made. On the Seeker meeting, we have regular every year at the same spots. And what's happened last year is allegedly sexual assault has been in the area. And they were given 24 hours notice that what was going to happen when they went. And normally they're back now when they haven't returned. They're normally that same group, so I don't know what's going to happen yet, because they could go somewhere else and they don't come back. And no one's coming this year. So agreement is 20 years.
Thanks. I agree with what said. If you have a designated site, isn't it, inviting people in. But I think the problems actually arise by not having a designated site. People come in, you'll park up with them, they can find a piece of wasteland. They're not monitored, they're not noticed, and the next thing you know, you've got neighbours complaining. We often leave in a very hasty fashion. If you have a designated site, I believe that there will be a certain amount of self-regulation with the travellers that use that, and we should be looking at this in a more positive vein. The group of people, they've got rights, and we as a community should be prepared to uphold their rights and give them somewhere to stay, rather than just parking where they're not wanted.
So, Jim, there's one other important issue. Our roles to identify a site, not necessarily provide a site. The provision of the site is very expensive, and there's no government funds to provide the sites now. I'd argue that given our financial situation, we're not in a position to spend £500,000 to provide the site. But our role is to identify a site that could be developed as a site for travellers.
We noted in the report, and
presentation at the last meeting of this committee in terms of the trader toolkit and the retail action plans that we were working on. Just a quick update for you tonight. The 6 action plans that were reported and outlined to the last meeting of this committee are now on their final circulation with the traders in those areas and also the ward members. So hopefully we'll have comments back very soon, and then the plan is to take those action plans through the cabinet process in June. The trader toolkit, which again I think you saw examples of that at the last presentation, that's in its final stages of just being published now through the graphics section, and then there will be an online version which will be going live very soon. So what I'd like to do on that particular one is obviously just let members know when it's live and when we've got copies of those available, and then we'll circulate those around. I think just finally to say that we've been very encouraged by the work that's been done with ward members in the 6 areas that we've done initially, and also with the traders. That's been a very positive experience, and also has led to a number of interesting opportunities in trying to address some of the challenges that those areas face at the present time. We will be proposing now, going back to the Cabinet report of July 2011, to move on to 6 further areas in Wirral as part of the rolling programme action plans, and those will also be detailed in the June report for members to consider.
Any questions or comments? Have any board members had one of these and that's your area? Any comments?
So, yeah, thanks. Just it was a good piece of work. It was carried out in the library. I also ended up making myself David. I can't remember the officer's name, the lady. It was Amy, yes, sorry. Yeah, lots of good comments. Various traders attended. She has fed back. Took the actions away, she's fed back. And it looks like we are moving forward. Hopefully we can get some implemented, not all of them. But yeah, it was well attended and it was well received, and there's lots of people who commented that they thought the input from the council was excellent. So, good stuff.
Okay. So we just write the officer for that report. Moving on to agenda item 9, fair trade. That's myself. This is just a bit of a hangover. About 2.5 years ago, Councillor Green, when he was leader of the council, nominated a handful of champions to do some pieces of work. I was nominated to deal with some fair trade work. That piece of work has now come to an end, the budget spent, so I'll just give you the highlights of what we did. We held a very large fair trade event up in Heswell Hall and launched a campaign to find fair trade champions within certain sectors, so that then they could kind of sustain fair trade in those sectors. So, for example, a primary school, a secondary school, a faith group, a cafe, a business. So basically they showed the way forward. We also gave the award to an individual, a unique woman who's been at this for 30 years before it became trendy, and we awarded her. We also sent out a job description to appoint an ambassador. One of the goodies that the ambassador got was a finance trip out to Ghana, where they could actually go and visit fair trade producers in action, see the impact of fair trade. They've come back, they now run a Facebook group, and they sit on a committee that kind of keep moving things forward. And one of the sustainable things was that the committee actually forwarded the borough and renewed the fair trade status for the borough. So we have another 5 years of being a fair trade borough. And also we gave out 5,000 bumper stickers through local libraries, just advertising fair trade. So a lot of the shops that you'll go into now, paying any attention at all, you'll see that they've got one of these fair trade stickers and things like that. And I found about 30, so I might just dish them out to councillors and stick up their car. So basically it was brought in on budget. We've got some sustainable outcomes, and the local volunteers who were heavily involved came and met the mayor and had a mayor's reception upstairs. So that's kind of where we're at now. Ends that part of the work order meeting. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 10. You will have got these papers
circulation of this report. We're just pulling together the final figures that are contained within it. This is the standard report that you see each quarter, and this is the report that summarises to the end of the last financial year. I'll just pick out a couple of highlights as we go through. You see in paragraph 2.2 of the report, under the heading Your Economy, a number of things are working well for us in Wirral there. So you can see some of the increased amounts of investment that have been attracted through the Invest Wirral activity. You can see the apprenticeship support that we've given there to 114 in the last financial year, and there's been a quarterly growth in the number of companies registered in the borough. Most of our plan targets are, for the corporate plan, are on target. There are three, though, that are identified in the report where there's an amber or red. The first one of those is in relation to the GBA, which is calculated on an annual basis, and you can see the actual performance there against the target, and the reasons for that are there in the corrective action box on the right-hand side. The second one, in terms of developing business floor space, there's not been as much delivered as was anticipated. This is mainly down to the economic circumstances that we've been experiencing, but it is encouraging to begin to see a significant amount of square metres of floor space begin to go into construction in the year, so those will be delivered in next year and the year after. The final one on there is the completion of the town centre action plans, which I've just referred to. A little strange this, because although the target is 12, we only anticipated completing 6 this year and 6 next year. So, you know, that's the reason why that indicator is not on target. But I think we are making good progress with that work, as has been witnessed this evening. Just moving on to the neighbourhood side of things, which is primarily around housing. You can see there some of the work that we've been able to do around empty homes and the funding that has been secured for that. You can see that the work we've been doing around homelessness, the installation programme, the assessments and reassessments of social services that have been spoken about this evening, that Sheila explained earlier, and you know, the numbers of people that have been receiving support and assistance who are vulnerable. There is just one indicator under your neighbourhoods where unfortunately the performance is red, and that's in relation to the assembly and release land for new build housing development. Again, this is caused mainly by the fact that we've actually assembled the land and the sites are there, but it's actually in terms of delivering the housing on those sites. And again, that is tied up with the economic circumstances. We are working very actively with a number of partners at the moment to see how we can encourage those sites now to be brought forward and to actually be delivered in terms of that. Just if I can take you down to paragraph 6 of the report. Just in terms of the resource implications, the department is expected to come in probably under budget for the last financial year. The final accounts are just being put together at the present time, but hopefully that demonstrates to you the effective management that the department has seen over the last 12 months in terms of that. There are no issues that I need to raise with you in terms of the capital programme or the budgets for the last quarter of last financial year. And in terms of future challenges and risks, this is the paragraph we've raised now on a number of occasions. It's clearly again just linked to the economic circumstances, and clearly across the world at the moment that there's a variableness in economic circumstances. So there are some companies and some areas of the world that are doing quite well, there are others that are facing a number of challenges. And what we've just backed up in here is that we're continuing to support companies like Peel and their proposals for the International Trade Centre and Wirral Waters generally, and also we're seeking to support businesses as and when we can. Again, I think the presentation earlier this evening illustrated some of the work that we're doing in that regard. So we're asking, in terms of the recommendation, just for the Scrutiny Committee to note the contents of the report, and clearly we're happy to answer any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just build on a couple of things, and firstly, apologise again for the charges, the report, but the council of these days, just outlined, Chair. Firstly, the good. On page 1 of the bullet point, we refer to a quarterly growth of 4.67%. Just to say that means the best in the UK. So the quarter 4 of last year, we were the fastest growing in the UK, not Northwest or the region in the UK. So I think that was worth mentioning in terms of what that measure actually equated to. And there was another report published last week, Chair, which said that Wirral had seen the third largest decrease nationally in its economic activity over the last 12 months. Now, I just bring members' attention back to reports that were looking at 2010, 2011 in the national press that was saying we would be the worst affected by the recession of any local authority other than Hull, Wirral, I don't know. But to say, this is the second report, having had the report by Nesta earlier this year that said we had the fastest growing incidence of high value businesses in the country. Now to say that we have the fastest growth figures of any company in the final quarter, we've got the third largest decrease nationally, I think is good news. To the less positive point, in terms of developing business floor space and GBA, we just very quick GBA capital first, Chair. As we all say, this is a measure of use, but it suits me, they don't use it, it doesn't suit me. Our economy is worth over 3 billion in Wirral, so we're not a small economy. Obviously, the per capita comes when you then divide it by the people of working age, and that makes us the lowest in England and Wales now. Anglesey, who I used to thank God for its existence, has now moved above us in the per capita measure now. But however, it's obviously per capita is dependent upon the activities of the business. But people in Wirral, and members are aware as I am, that over 40,000 people take dogs in the end daily vet outside of Wirral. So their activities count towards the areas that they earn money, but their charity is not per head, if you like. So there's some issues and some challenges. We have an economy that is one where people like themselves would recognise local authority boundaries in where they work. Having said that, our figures have increased higher than the Olympics region in the Northwest, percentage-wise in the year, but obviously we're still behind where we wanted to be. And this measure is always 2 years in arrears. In the business floor space, it's disappointing, Chair, and I'll hold hands up and say that. We would have expected to see more new business floor space delivered over the year. The good news is, you can see there, 25,000 square metres actually started this year, which if delivered will more than make up for last year's target, hopefully this year's. And I suppose, Chair, it's a similar issue with the new build housing and development land. England's colleagues are working particularly hard to assemble the land and get it right for house building. However, there just isn't demand at this moment for house building. There's demand for houses, but people are not prepared to build them. And there's been real issues in terms of getting access to mortgages. There's real issues for us, particularly in our HMO areas, where any houses that are being built, the mortgage lenders are very, very low to treat new homes, and we've had a lot of issues and a lot of discussions with mortgage lenders. It's not a real problem, it's a housing, ex-housing market, and you will probably where there seems to be a blanket policy used by the mortgage lenders nationally. But again, the good news is here, we've got the land, and there does seem to be, without commitment, there does seem to be growing interest by the private sector, indeed by ourselves. Wirral Partnership Homes started building quite considerably in terms of the last few months. Certainly, the private sector started to show more interest in sites that they were interested in. Happy to answer these questions.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of points. The first one, I thought it was more than 40,000 actually, people left Wirral every day, but
No, it's a net of 40,000.
So is it coming in net, was 70,000 go out, isn't it, or something? But
Yeah, it's 50 odd. So it was 50 odd. Well,
that's
a lot coming in.
on the business floor space, obviously we can only say what our preferred offering from the private sector would be that we would like. Are we talking, is this more commercial units rather than office space? Because office space is obviously in abundance in the local area.
Unfortunately, Chair, it's both. One of the fantastic tools we've had in the past, offices or factories, to be perfectly candid, they're not where what it costs to build them when they're built. And one of the great supports we've had in the past was something called gap funding was directed from government to European Regional Development Funds. I think it's fair to say it's dried up from existing funds. So, whilst there was the problem, if you look at the floor space bill, because the developer or the end user could apply for financial support to say, it's going to cost so much to build, it's only worthwhile when it's built, and have that difference. And we give them as a grant, it wasn't paid. The money has dried up now, and that's had a significant effect upon people's ability to build, because more often than not, what we build is going to be more than one space.
Yeah, no, sorry, we've very much just gone there. I think the point is the gap funding's gone now, and that means that the building will go down. The point is, especially if you look at Wirral Waters in particular, there is massive interest in having businesses having a site on Wirral Waters. If the offering is less, surely that will only drive up rent for the businesses coming in. So therefore, the need is actually being enforced against. So there is actually a net benefit to building, because the net value of the building once finished would actually go up. I know that was a mouthful there, but in a roundabout sort of way, it should balance itself out. That's the whole point. If there's a demand for it, it will get paid for eventually. That's and we've already proved, I think, in previous meetings that there is a massive demand for something on Wirral Waters, so therefore the value should even itself out. Now, the other point I wanted to make was on the 83 empty homes that are going to be brought back into use, which is fantastic, from the 1.25 million funded on page 2. So, I think it's fantastic news again. How's that going to be distributed? Are we going to do the works ourselves, or are we just going to give grants to builders and ourselves?
We'll do ourselves. Targeting scrutiny areas as well, targeting around areas where the specific vacancy rates are greater than 10%. So it's usual suspects in the seeing everyone.
But are they going to go back into RSL stock, or are they going to be sold on the private sector?
We need to those. Right, so we're going to the private sector probably, but someone will be asked off that. I mean, the main crux of this actual bit is going to be an Andrew Gibson house, so there's that madness on down the road there, but a number of ours have been involved in only £2,000, but once they opened up the ground floors and that, which is real. So we're being able to move the money elsewhere into some smaller units.
Well, just to note this report, David mentioned about this 6 versus 12 figure on the central action plans. In my head, we've only been after 6 this year. Is there a general agreement around that? A blank look from everyone. Okay, I'm convinced we've only asked for 6, so I'd like to personally take that out of red, because I don't think it's fair to measure officers against that.
Thanks, Chair, but it is our fault. It's our fault. We put 12 in. We knew we were going to do 6, but there's 12 to do. We put 12 in to start with.
But it's not a critical issue for us, is it? It's not a risk, so. Okay, so recommendation. Yeah, sorry, Stu.
Just a point on the question. I think the figures, excellent news for the borough. I think both well for the future, for the national economy before prices for the housing stock. You mentioned the best housing markets. I'm wondering, is that reflects across the board? Or you mentioned that HMRI areas, was there other areas of the borough where there's some hesitancy?
Yes, there are. We just started to quite significant housing development slowly in 41. And as you would expect, we continue to get all sorts of people knocking on the door saying they want to build housing in the green belt, and of course we tell them don't do that. But no, there's, I think it's housing starts to pick up.
Are we done on that? Yeah. Report? Thank you. We'll deal with agenda item 11 and 12 together. I'm just conscious that the remit of this committee is going to expand next year. So I'm nervous about loading the coming year with lots of items. But is there anything anybody wants on the agenda for next year? Conscious that some of us won't be sat here, and etc. etc.
I think universal credit. Universal credit. I think it's a major issue for housing buyers. Now I know the piece of work around budget tax is an excellent piece of work, but in my view it may come based on the date. It would be nice if it was done some months ago, so we've feed into the initial response.
I understand where you're coming from. Would that be our remit? Or would it be council excellence?
But of course, you as members will be making decisions over what committees there are, and talking about the council excellence. I think the proposal is that will be one for each transformation area. The proposal that council will be asked to consider. I'm not sure whether it would fit with also transformation resources. Once one of them wants to share that, in my infinite wisdom, I would need to share to sort that, which one of them is to.
There is going to be an overarching committee that makes those decisions, there isn't there? So I think what we need to do is feed your idea into the new committee, and whoever's chairing that, and say, who deals with this? Is that? Yeah. Did I sidestep that nicely enough? Okay.
Very well.
Anything else to add on to the floor plan other than the stuff that's come up through today? I think we need to leave a little bit of a blank canvas because we don't really know what's going to be going on. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Any other urgent business? None. We have the regeneration update.
Split it between item 13 and some between item you started yet between item 15. Firstly, in the public session, I did say before about broadband. I'm very pleased that we've been given we've finally got match support through the European Youth Development Fund, and we finally got EU agreement for us to be able to deliver this support for businesses who have been deemed illegal in the state aid. So we'll be moving forward with that show very soon. Just quickly, Chair, I'm meeting with ministers, other ministers on Wednesday this week to also supply park opportunities. And again, Chair, I cannot expand on that a bit more in the event area. Finally, Chair, the International Trade Centre, I think I might have said last time, so we've seen it in the past. Pleased to say that the funds from our Chinese partner have entered the UK, and we expect the planning application this week, within the next week or two.
Is that a Teresa or is that a suitcase or a big
Took us almost a year to